Yo, what's up, guys? It's Teo. Figured I'd do something a little goofy and bring you a tier list on my opinion of the difficulty of the challenge modes. Go ahead and bring that up. Got through this recently, last week or so. I did it with my friend who's Bear Tank, which by no means is the best choice of tank, but we got it done. Some of them are easy, some of them are a little harder. Figure I'd take kind of a general look at it as well as my personal experiences and kind of tell you what to expect and, like I said, kind of do a tier list thing. So, the first one is going to be the Jade Temple. There it is. Jade Temple. This is the first one I did. I did this with a couple friends. I would say probably B tier. I think you could say C tier. It's definitely a good step up. I'm gonna go B. It's a good step up over the heroic dungeon, but it's nothing too crazy. They add an extra Shaw mob in that courtyard, so that can be kind of scary. I think the hardest part of this dungeon is actually the first boss in that kind of wing with the water elementals. Um, Outside of that, it's kind of just your basic J Temple run. You don't really got to do nothing special. I think you could say C tier, but I think it's a good middle ground. Yeah, nothing crazy. Next one is Storm Stout Brewery. Storm Stout. One of these two. I guess S. Um, just quick thing. The tier list of this is in relation to the other dungeons. I don't think any of these would be like an S tier. I don't think any of them are like super crazy hard, but in comparison to the other challenge modes, Storm Stout's probably one of the hardest. Most people agree it's the first or second place. Um, the biggest thing is the final boss. I'm pretty sure on heroic the boss is like one of two. He's either like the dark ale or he's like the fizzier light one or whatever. On challenge mode, he's both. At least I believe that's the difference. Of course, everything has lots more health and damage. The hardest thing about this dungeon in particular is that the final boss will spawn, will rack up a ton of healing on him, and you're pretty much in a race against the clock. That timer is actually fairly tight, so you have to do the rest of the dungeon pretty well. You pretty much can't mess up in this dungeon. It's not too difficult. You got to respect the bunnies that blow up. Outside of that, it's pretty much just the final boss, in my opinion. But that one is definitely pretty difficult. You need to coordinate your CC and stuff well. You're going to need good communication, or really just your whole team kind of needs to go in with a game plan for that one. The next one's Gate of the Setting Sun. Where's that one? Right here. This one's easy. This one's really easy. I'm gonna put it D tier, I guess. Maybe I'd go F, but I'll go D tier. It's really easy. Nothing is too challenging in this dungeon. The only difficult part, if you want to even say difficult, would be the first boss. Maybe that first kind of hallway or whatever, that first big pull can be a little sketchy. First boss, the bombs that blow up, they kind of explode in like a cross or kind of like an X shape. The fire explode, the like little fire trail those leave, will do about half your health. Outside of that, this dungeon's pretty easy. Like I said, me and my friend, who's the bear tank, we went in there, first tried this with pugs. We had 3 pugs for pretty much all of these. Occasionally, we'd get my friend in. He's PvP cured and playing a Holy Paladin, so definitely no meta stuff going on. You don't need it for this. Next one is Monastery. I was really worried about Shadowpan Monastery. Thought it'd be super difficult, and we ended up doing it in one take with pretty much no prep. Same thing for this one. I'm going to put it right next to each other. People may struggle a little more with this one, mostly because of the Shaw section, in my opinion. The little Shaws explode for a ton, and the Shaw boss can kind of combo you. He does a blind on the tank, and then the boss turned auto attacked me as he did a spike on the floor that I failed to dodge and got comboed. But outside of that, you kind of just run it like you would normally. You got to respect the Shaw section. We invised past part of it, so that's probably a good idea for that. But outside of that, this one's really not that hard. The panda boss that splits into three and shoots like the fireballs. The images of him are worth killing. They only have about like maybe 50k HP. Since those fireballs do hit hard, you can reduce the amount of those flying, and it makes that boss just kind of a joke. Final boss is kind of a joke. So yeah, it definitely these are the two easiest ones for sure. The next one is Siege. This one's going up here. In fact, no. No, I don't think it's harder. I don't think it's harder. Siege of New Zhao Temple. This is my least favorite one by far. I had the least amount of fun doing this one, and when we beat it, which let me actually check over here. Yeah, we had what over 2 minutes left on this one. I didn't even feel happy after we beat this one. The difficulty in this dungeon is the first couple pulls. Essentially, there's these amber globs, the little slime looking things, and your team, your group needs really good coordination and pull synergy. You need lots of interrupts to keep the ads under control, but you guys need to sporadically um, kill these blobs because they give your whole team a damage buff. And keeping that damage buff up to basically steamroll through that first, 40% of the dungeon or whatever it is really critical. And once you can do that, the rest of the dungeon's honestly easy. It's actually pretty easy. Third boss, you can just stack all those ads up, blow them up with the bombs and stuff. So there's tons of cheese for this dungeon. The problem is just doing it properly. The coordination required in that first area, those first couple pulls to really do it well, especially with pugs, is just annoying. It's going to take a bunch of pulls. And like I said, it kind of just left a sour taste in my mouth. That's really the difficulty of it, is the coordination required to pull that off correctly. Outside of that, the dungeon's actually not too hard. I would say if you can get past the first part of the dungeon, honestly, I'd put it down to like B. But yeah, you need to really try and do that blob section well to get just have some extra comfort time, in my opinion. I like to try to not cut them super close if possible. Next is Mogushon Palace. There it is. Mogushon Palace. We actually almost did this on our first try, and our DK used Army of the Dead and pulled the dogs on the final boss and wiped us. And then it took us like 5 tries. I'm going to go B. Again, this is kind of a situation I think you could go C tier. I'm going to go B. We did have a Mistweaver for this one, and it was really nice to have that Mistweaver do Ring of Peace on the ads to provide the silence and the disarm. Super valuable, and I think it helped a lot. Nothing too crazy in this dungeon, to be honest. It's kind of like the Jade Temple. There's maybe a pull or two with the ads. Some of the bigger pulls with the Mogu dudes could be kind of sketchy. Outside of that, I don't think it was particularly hard. I think if your group doesn't have a good CC, if your guys aren't stunning, you guys aren't kicking properly, this probably goes up to like here. But I think it's B. Let's see, the next one is Skullomance. Skullomance. Let me think about this. Skullomance wasn't too bad. Would I say it was worse? That's kind of hard to say. I'm thinking B, maybe A tier. I'm going to put in A for now. I'm going to talk about it for a second, and maybe I'll swap that. So, Skullomance. There's a couple pulls in Skullomance that are really scary. The Bone Weaver pull, if you're doing all of those, or even most of them, if you do even 4 or 5 of them, that's a very scary pull. Rattlegore. We actually wiped because we had forgotten Rattlegore. You have to kite him around. We're so used to just going in there and heroic and blowing him apart. So we actually died to that. There's the Lillian fight. It's not too bad. You can skip the Yeah, I'm gonna do Skullomance B. The thing is, I think Skullomance is actually deserving of A tier, but there is some cheese strategies you can do on the boss. I forget what her name is, but she summons a bunch of images of herself. You can just hide behind that wall and completely ignore her mechanics, essentially. And also, let me go ahead and actually bring the game. Well, I don't have it actually, but the flask you can get from the professor in Skullomance, you can just run that on normal real quick if you want a little cheese tip from me. Pause. What? That's disgusting. If you go get the flask from the professor, you can fill it up and save that buff where you turn into the big like skeleton version of him. And right before you get to the final boss, you can actually pop that, and it provides you a super huge damage buff in the form of a proc. It does like a poison blast. Um, Me and my friend, who is the tank on the final boss, just for context, just the poison proc from two of us having that equated to, I think, about 5 million damage on Dark Master Candling alone. Um, so, like I said, I think this dungeon's probably up here, but there's stuff you can do to make it not too bad. Honestly, with using the two strats I just mentioned, it might even go down here. But yeah, it's got a couple scary things about it, but it's not too bad. I'd say it's somewhere kind of in the middle. Scarlet Halls. Okay. Scarlet Halls. Um, my experiences doing these Scarlet ones is interesting. Some people say they're not too bad. Some people would say they're like here. Um, Scarlet Halls. Let me think about this for a minute. This is the one, yeah, with the Bladestorm guy. Man, I'm gonna go A tier. Honestly, I'm gonna go A tier. Um, the ads, it's really the ads, okay? And this is gonna spoiler, it's kind of the same thing for Scarlet Monastery. The ads in the Scarlet dungeons do not fuck around. I don't know how else to put it. They don't fuck around. I got hit with a 300,000 holy fire because I did not reflect, and I got one shot. The fanatics, especially, I think the fanatics are only in Monastery, but they can hit you like 70k each punch or something. Some of the ads in this one, Scarlet Halls, can really mess you up. So Scarlet Halls, the bosses are easy. There's some good skips. The timer's not too bad. It's really not that difficult. The problem is the ads. You don't have to do huge pulls in some, in some of these, like Stormstout Brewery, for example, you kind of need to. It has kind of a tight timer. You kind of need to be going fast, right? Something like Scarlet Halls, personally, I don't think you need to do huge pulls, but you're probably going to want to do that. And you guys need to be kicking. You guys need to be stunning. You need stun rotations. You need kicks. You need, anything. You can get solar beams, ring of peace, shockwave, whatever. Do these big pulls with these ads, stun them, and lock them down. Because if you don't, and you don't kill them quickly, they're going to tear you apart. Scarlet Halls has multiple pulls of these humanoid mobs that will just destroy you if you don't keep them under lock. Um, but if you do Scarlet Halls and also Scarlet Monastery, which I'll get to, with a group that has really good AoE control, things like Remorseless Winter, Ring of Peace, Shockwave, Solar Beam, whatever. It definitely reduces the difficulty quite a bit, and I think you could probably argue it's like B tier. But yeah, it's kind of sleeper difficult, in my opinion. The last one is Monastery, of course. Monastery. Let's see. How would I rate this in relation to the other ones? Scarlet Monastery is pretty similar to Halls, I think. I'm gonna go B tier for now. I might move that. I might move it. It's kind of a similar story. The bosses are really just not that big of an issue, to be honest. Shouldn't really be wiping to the, at worst maybe one guy dies to whatever. But Scarlet Monastery, The bosses aren't the issue. Again, it's the humanoid mobs. And you have to do quite a few pulls of these humanoid mobs. And again, it's kind of a similar story to Halls, where if you're not kicking, you're not keeping these guys stunned, um, they will just tear you guys apart. Um, would I say Halls is more difficult than Monastery? I feel like they're kind of similar. Man, it's kind of a hard one. In our, you know, me and my friend when we did it, I would say, in our personal experience, I think Halls was more difficult for us. I don't think it's actually harder than Monastery. Is that fair to say? Yeah, because you have the monks. They're called the fanatics that hit really hard. Um, I don't know. I could definitely see with a good group, you could put both of these Scarlet ones in like B tier, but I think I'm gonna leave it an A. This is my experience, and I think this is pretty fair. Definitely the two hardest ones is gonna be Storm Stout and the Nuzal Temple, just because they require coordination and also for you to go pretty quick. I think the sleeper hard ones, in my opinion, and some of the people I've talked to, is the Scarlet ones, mostly just for the mobs because they can just mess you up. I think some of the middle ground ones is Skullomance, decently difficult, but you can pull some cheesy stuff and it's not too difficult. Mogushan Vaults, I don't know. Nothing really stands out too much about that one, to be honest. It's somewhat difficult and you kind of just get it done. Shrine of the Jade Serpent, kind of a similar story. I could see if you're struggling on the courtyard with the Shaws, maybe that beginning part, but you kind of get it down and it's not too bad. And by far, the two easiest ones, if you have a somewhat decent group, especially if you have a good group, these are free as hell. Um, like unless your group sucks, you probably get these done in at minimum, or excuse me, at maximum, like 3 attempts. I don't see how these could take you that much longer. Maybe Shadowpan Monastery could be like C tier, honestly. The more I'm thinking about it, maybe it should be C tier. Probably. We had a pretty good group for that one. Okay, I'll do that. I'm gonna put Monastery probably in C. My personal experience was right here, but I think to give it its due credit, I think it would probably go like that. So yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna leave it. This is the tier list, in my opinion, of how difficult these are realistically. Again, none of these are so difficult that like they're impossible. These S tier ones, they took what 2-3 hours at most, with a decent group. Like it's nothing too crazy, difficult. It might vary for you though, so don't take it to heart if you can't do it or something. You just keep trying at it. It's not too big a deal. Yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty much all I got. So thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it.